What's going on, everybody? It's John here. This is my 2005 Lamborghini Gallardo. Some of you guys that are new to the channel, I'm just sharing my experience with the ownership of the car. If you're new, subscribe and keep on track, and I'll let you know what I think of this car. I've had it for a year, 2,400 miles, and this thing's badass, I'll tell you that. Anyways, today I want to focus on the 15K service on this car. I'm an master automotive technician. I'm certified. So for me, this job's a little bit different from everybody else. I probably wouldn't recommend someone working on their own Lamborghini unless they know deep down in their heart that they're capable and that they got the mechanical aptitude to do it. So today, I'll give you a quick rundown. 15K for Lamborghini Gallardo includes oil change, coolant flush, front diff and rear transaxle service, brake fluid flush, all 10 spark plugs, both cabin air filters, a K&N air filter set or the stock ones, whichever ones you want. And this is selective. You don't have to have this. This is a Northwest IPA umbrella. That's for after you're done with the job, you can celebrate with one of those bad boys. Anyways, so parts wise, you're going to need the stock Lamborghini Gallardo oil filter. You're going to need 10 quarts of 540. I use a Castrol Edge Syntec. You're going to need, what I use is a G13 coolant. And the car takes about 4.5 gallons on a drain and fill. So you need enough to create a 50-50 ratio coolant and distilled water. I use MT90 Redline synthetic oil for front diff service and rear transaxle service. You're going to need 6 quarts of that. About 4.25 quarts for the transaxle. And I believe about a quart and a quarter, 1.25 quarts for the front diff. I actually added a little bit of limited slip diff modifier to the rear because these cars do have a clutch differential in the rear transaxle. I used, for the brake fluid flush, this Techstar DOT4 Racing brake fluid. For all 10 spark plugs, I used the NGK PFR 7G-11S's. These are the upgrade for the 05s that came with Champions. For the cabin air filters, I used these part numbers here, 4F0898438C, which is the factory cross-reference number for the cabin air filters. And the K&Ns were 332490s. 04 to 08 Gallardos, I believe, is all the same. And I'll tell you what, it does take some time to do this service, and if you're really spending your time and doing it right, be patient with it. I did most of this work at my shop where I work, so I wanted to kind of keep focused on the actual job versus a video camera and crap like that. So, all that being said, I'll give you a kind of a quick rundown of where things are and how hard this job is. I probably wouldn't recommend anybody doing this unless you knew deep down that you were good at working on, really precision stuff, and you had a lot of experience of working on automotives, let alone a Lamborghini. It's not a car you want to mess anything up on. The car's worth way too much. So if you're not 110% confident that you could do this job yourself, don't even do it. It's about $2,500 to $3,000, I believe, to take it to the dealer and do this. Like I said, I'm a master automotive technician, so I felt confident I could do this, and I had all the tools and the equipment to do all this correctly. But I'll give you the rundown. For the spark plugs, guys, you got 5 coil packs on each side, 5 individual. That bank and this bank. To do those, you actually have to remove the side panels on each side. That side too. What I did was one bank at a time. Remove the panel, which includes removing this strut. Then you can get this cover off of these coils, and you actually have to move that coolant tank right there. You have to slide that a little bit one way to get the very back coil pack fully out of its hole. These are Audi style ignition coil packs. They're a little tricky with the connectors. You want to push them in, then release, then pull the connector off, and the coil packs pretty much pull right out of the hole. There is no attachment, it's just a tight fit. This bank actually was a lot harder to do the coil packs. As you can see, it's a lot tighter to actually get the cover off to even see the coil packs. You need to remove the side panel, and then there's a frame underneath there that needs to be removed. It's like a section of channel frame, extra brace for the car. That has to be removed. Then those coil packs can be done. While we're here, there's your air filter boxes right there, right there. Those are easy to change out. Oil filter right there. And as the oil change goes, it's a whole nother process. It's got a dry sump oil system, so you have a tank and you have the two different drains, one at the oil pan too. Onto the coolant flush. There's your coolant tank, right? Well, you want to crack that cap, and underneath there's two drain ports on the coolant bypass channel pipes. Those have to be drained. You have to drain the coolant out, and it's a big messy job unless you have a big container and facility. With the coolant flush, which complicates the job, is that you have radiators up here in the car, one on here and one on there. When you go to fill the coolant back up, well, the air gets trapped in those, so you have to remove this whole trunk assembly, and there's two vents on each radiator. You have to crack those fittings loose, or a banjo fitting, to leak the air out as you're filling up the coolant. One rule of thumb is you take out 4.5 gallons of coolant, you better put 4.5 back in. That way you know that you got the right amount back in there without, some trapped air in there or whatever. So, on to the transaxle and front diff service. The rear transaxle takes a 14 millimeter Allen drain plug. You need that tool and a 7/8 fill or check plug. And there's also a screen that you have to pull out and service. You can see it's right there. That has to be pulled out. There's a screen that has to be cleaned out, reinstalled to do the rear transaxle service. Filling the rear transaxle. There's also a plug at the top to do it, but if you have a tight fitting to fill check plug, you can use that as well and pump in 4 1/4 quarts in there, and basically you need to fill it up till it starts coming out of that fill plug. If you don't get at least 4 1/4 quarts in there, then something's wrong. The front diff, you have to remove all the panels, splash shield underneath to get to the front diff. It's probably 30 some Torx bits just to get the panel off underneath there. Once again, it's a 14 millimeter drain and a 7/8 inch nut for your fill check plug. The front diff's a little bit more straightforward. You want to drain it, then you want to, obviously clean the drain plug, reinstall, fill the front diff up with about 1.25 quarts in the front. Same thing again, you want to fill that up till it pours out that fill plug. And so then you move on to your brake fluid flush, which the master cylinder is right here. Right there. So the best way to do that actually is with a power bleeder. Most guys aren't going to have that. So, you know, I guess there you go. That's probably something you don't want to do, Backyard Joe, because you want your brake fluid to not have any air and shit in it. Otherwise, you have a real big problem. Anyways, I'm not going to go into full detail on all those services and how exactly you do them, because it would take me forever. So I guess that's where that comes in, is that if you don't have super great mechanical skills, don't do this on your own car. Take it to the dealer or an independent shop. Anyway, so last but not least, the cabin air filters. Almost forgot about that. They are buried inside the HVAC box, which this car is pretty tight and it's pretty small, so you need to be a smaller person or a contortionist to get these serviced in and out of here. They are 2 filters and they're stacked one on top of each other vertically. So in order to get those, you need to access it from the passenger side of the HVAC box, which includes, you need to disconnect the battery because you really need to move the fuse block, which is right there in your way. And then you got to remove this floor panel here, and they're actually buried up in there. You can't even see them, the access panel. So you remove all that, get to the panel, remove the filters one at a time, stacked on top of each other like I said, and then you can service those. But, you know, so that sums up the 15K. I would say, you know, a Lamborghini tech can do this in probably 4 hours, get everything simultaneously going at once. If you're doing this at home, it's going to take you some time, especially not without a lift. So that sums up the 15K on my Lamborghini Gallardo. This is an 05, I believe. All 04 to 08 first gen Gallardos are the same for this service. It does take some time, and like I said before, if you're not 110% confident you could do this and it's not a big deal to you, then great. If you're not, yeah, don't try it out on this car. You might as well save the money, have a professional do it. And I know every guy likes to think, and you know, some females like to think too, everyone's a mechanic and it's so easy. Well, it's not too easy once you start messing things up. And you're talking about a high-end car, it's not worth it. You know, a lot of these components and things on this car are very expensive. So think twice unless you are 110% confident. And we'll see you guys later for more vids. And that concludes this video on the 15K. Now I can enjoy myself a Northwest IPA, man.